From Creamer Media in Johannesburg, this is the Real Economy Report. Our top stories this week. We look at the latest concept for the Square Kilometre Array radio telescope. Samsung Electronics increases its market presence in Africa. And we look at the risks to Africa's economic growth. There is a new concept design for the €1.5 billion International Square Kilometre Array radio telescope, which South Africa and Australia are bidding to host. Keith Campbell reports.
These dishes are part of one of the core arrays of the Square Kilometre Array, or SKA. In the latest concept for the instrument, there will be three core arrays, namely a dish array, a sparse aperture array, and a dense aperture array. This animation shows one possible design for the dishes. South Africa and Canada are proposing and developing composite dishes fitted with a metallic radio-reflective surface, while Australia prefers metal dishes made in China to reduce costs. Whatever design is chosen, the SKA's dishes will be about 15 meters in diameter. The second core array will be the sparse aperture array, composed of fixed antennas in the form of two cross dipoles. These have very small electrical voltages induced in them by the incoming radio waves. The signals from the array elements are combined digitally to produce a usable signal. The third core array will be the dense aperture array. This is also composed of fixed antennas which work in a similar way to the sparse aperture array antennas. Both types of antennas will scan the heavens electronically and be able to look in several directions at once. Outstations will radiate from the SKA's triple core in a spiral pattern, appropriately reminiscent of a spiral galaxy. The first of these outstations will be quite close to the core, but some will be as much as 2,000 or even 3,000 kilometers from the core. The SKA's use of three kinds of antennas will mean that it will be able to receive radio waves across a very wide band of wavelengths, from 4 meters to 3 centimeters or even 2 centimeters.
Samsung Electronics is increasing its market presence in South Africa through the Samsung Forum. Marianne O'Donnell has the story.
The 2010 Samsung Forum, held in Johannesburg, showcased the newest technological innovations across Samsung's entire product range, including mobile handsets, digital cameras and home appliances. Through the forum, Samsung hopes to increase its market share in Africa by up to 33% and continue to take advantage of the growth potential on the continent. Samsung Electronics South Africa COO George Ferreira explains.
The aim of the Samsung Forum is quite clear. What we want to do is show the investment of Samsung to South Africa and to the continent, that Samsung is not only one or two products, but actually we've got over 40 product categories with an offering of over 500 different items. We have now really formalized the focus that we are bringing into Africa. We see the potential, there's the population, there is the GDP, and when you look at Africa in its entirety, it's a big territory.
Because of the increasing market growth in Africa, Samsung has also developed some of its products to suit the African environment. It has introduced its rugged range of cell phones as well as home appliances adapted for African conditions.
Most of our home appliances today come with some form of voltage guard, meaning that because of the power in Africa being unstable, we've created some ways of protecting people's products, in that whether the power spikes from 130 to 400 volts, it will allow it to regulate, and if it goes over a certain amount, it will actually switch off without destroying it.
Africa's economy is booming at the moment, but that does not mean there are no risks. Keith Campbell reports.
The African economy is forecast to grow at 4.5% this year, 5.5% next year, and 6% in 2012. But is there anything that could delay or disrupt this growth? I put this question to African Development Bank Chief Economist and Vice President, Professor Mthuli Ngube.
The risk factors lie in the commodity prices, that while the growth story is driven by commodities in Africa, if there's a slowdown in commodity price recovery, then that's problematic. But we think that Chinese growth is quite robust, and that will keep the prices high and trending upwards. The other risk is Europe, the risk of a double dip recession, if indeed that holds as a risk. That will shave off, in our view, another 0.5% or so, between 0.2 to 0.5% in Africa's growth. There are countries in Africa which are closely tied with Europe, such as the CFA countries, the Francophone countries, and so forth, but also other countries. And a few central banks, reserve banks in Africa, do hold their reserves partly in euros. So naturally, if there's a euro weakness or wobble or depreciation, and that will impact on those countries. And also the impact could come via credit lines which become more expensive, or simply dry up. That also could become a risk. But also another risk is countries in Africa that depend on aid flows from Europe could be affected by the European decision to cut back on public expenditure because of huge budget deficit in that zone.
That's Creamer Media's Real Economy Report. Join us again next week for more news and insight into South Africa's real economy.